Okay, I'm starting my list again. Number one, I have reduced my coffee intake.
Okay.
I love coffee. I like to drink it every day, and I was already minimizing it. But sometimes I'm also replacing it with bone broth at the start of the day. I'm also trying my best to listen to music that's lively and energizing at the top of the day to either get myself in a movement kind of spirit or to get the body energized. I have been making sure I stretch
Good one.
and using a whole lot of magnesium oil for the soreness. And I have been taking moments where I just sit outside and become a sun bunny for the vitamin D and just to be like this, to plop, because we are nonstop. My sister and I have barely even spoken to each other in the last 3 weeks. We're
Yeah.
like passing little ships.
Like, and we have another sibling, all three of us, just literal ships. And so I just want, it's so interesting. Like, I just want to say what has been helping me, which is so similar to you too, but in a different
copying me.
order. So I have been also starting my days out with bone broth typically as well. Makes such a difference. And I am I have not shifted my coffee intake because it's honestly what's been keeping me going throughout the hospital hours, energy wise, but also nourishment. So I may not have the flexibility to eat as when I want necessarily if I'm in the hospital, but I do eat. Like I am very conscious to make sure that I'm eating enough throughout the day, whether that's in the morning or afterwards. So I'm not skipping meals. So I know that that's the nutrition is important. I am being a lot more conscious about my hydration, not just with water, but I've even been adding these little electrolyte packets in it to give me a little bit of a boost. And I do feel the difference in how my body physically feels. Just feels a lot more alert. I feel a lot more grounded, believe it or not, and energized. So I am like being conscious of things like that. When I leave the hospital, that's normally when I listen to music. Shout out to Alex Sensation. I go into his live, section. And between hospital walk to back home, I'm in una clase de club in my head.
Oh my God. We got to make that club happen.
But at the same time, I do that because I want to halt the whole day. Like I want to halt the emotion. I want to halt the stress, the worries, the questions, all the conversations. I don't want to look at my phone. I don't want to look at calls. I don't want to call anyone. I want to have at least a 30, 45 minutes where I will just lose myself in the music. But if I find that my brain feels too full, then those 30, 45 minutes, I will focus on being silent or go somewhere to be in silence for a little bit. Like I just try not to have anything on. So just really trusting what my body needs. Do I need a little musiquita to get me going and to sort of like release? Or do I just need a real pause and silence? Another thing that has been really helpful for me is even if it's just, I kid you not, 10 minutes, I go sit in the park, just some natural element. And that's in silence as well. I'll sit my ass on the ground. Yes, I am hugging the tree. Excuse me. And that has been really, really, really helpful. Another thing for me as a Pisces is water. So regardless, when I am bathing, perhaps my showers are a little longer. I am being a heck of a lot more intentional about not just being clean, but cleansing. So it's interesting how you wind up having very similar medicines, but the way people incorporate it to support them will be different. There's no one way.
I just find it fascinating because for those people who know us intimately, they know that I'm an Aries and you're a Pisces, and sort of it's almost like a flip of the order of how we're approaching our care. But the reason we're sharing this with you, mi gente, is one is that it doesn't matter in which order you use it, just make it work for you. Two, you see two different ways of how we're using almost the same tools. We didn't do a cheat sheet. We didn't talk to each other before this. It's just,
This is what we've been doing.
it's what we've been doing. And let me tell you, even with that, we also have to take breaks. And yesterday I got a unexpected break because I almost went into anxiety attack mode. And the last time that I was feeling that that coming undone, where everything sort of is coming undone at the same time, was in college when I was pledging a sorority. More on that in another episode, but it was approaching Hell Week.
Doesn't even sound right.
Right, but people who know. Now, the way this was similar is that was so many things. My body was exhausted. We were having long days. I was hardly sleeping. There's a lot of it's a long schedule. It's longer than usual. More demands are being made out of you. People need you to be alert. You still have to do your work. You still have to do your responsibilities. And sometimes all those to-dos, your body's like, wait a second, bitches. I can't do that right now.
Too much sometimes.
It's too much. And yesterday I found myself where I was approaching a couple of to-dos and I went pale. I felt like nauseous. At the same time, all of these things happened at the same time. I was feeling nauseated. I was feeling I was gonna blank out. I got very pale. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I really wanted to throw up. I wanted to communicate. I had this energy stuck in my back. What I knew was that it was grief that was stuck, that didn't have a way to escape in any of these last couple of weeks, or even the past year and almost a half that we've been back and forth with our mother, being as supportive as we can throughout these health challenges. And it's just simply taken a toll. And so we apologize for those of you who have been trying to reach us, contact us, DM us, call us. This is what
Waiting for responses.
Waiting for responses. Like, we have barely been able to have a communication. And then there are these moments where you just look at the phone and you don't even know what you're looking at. You don't even know who you're talking to. You don't even know what you're reading.
I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I'm looking at my phone past a certain point and I have a cutoff. I'm literally like, I love you. Whoever's maybe trying to call me or leave me a message, I love you, I appreciate you, but I can't talk. Like, my body's like, if I pick up another call or exert more, now I'm overexerting, and I'm going to feel it in another way later. And because at this time, we have to, I think, be a little bit more selective with where our attention and energy goes. There are times and situations where I have to say no to something, an opportunity, to an invite, to a phone call, and it has nothing to do with, not appreciating people in our life or loving them, but all to do with I'm human, we're human.
And we're preserving.
There's only 24 hours in a day.
We're engaging in self-preservation.
And you can't be, this is also, remember, what we've been in the world we've been in from a more holistic part is perspective is, we've been learning for years and years how to create boundaries, and if you don't know your own body, or you're not listening to your own body when it's trying to communicate, I think my cup is feeling a little full right now. My sister's cup was exploding yesterday. She needed to just shut the world out as best as she was able to.
I was overridden by two humans in my life that in my circle of trust, they were like, you shall not do anything. You will turn around and you will rest today. You will not you're not going to do laundry. You're not going to go to you need to just stay. And I needed to listen.
Okay, right, exactly. And I think that's the part that sometimes is really difficult for people when they're setting boundaries, like learning to give yourself the permission that it really is okay. Forgive yourself that you at times will not be available for that situation or that person, that you sometimes will have to say, I'm sorry, I can't, for you, because you got to prioritize yourself from a place of health and wholeness first, not because you're being an a-hole, not because it's coming from an egotistical place. It's very different. It's very different. It's not selfish at all, family. And I know that being, we're Puerto Rican, being Latina, you all know out there when you're growing up in Spanish families, often, there's extra pressure placed on the women particularly, but just on the pressure of, when it comes to certain family responsibilities, like sometimes the pressure is you got to be a superhuman that you're not, or the expectation is, and I think that's been another element that everybody will also experience when they're going through family emergencies or issues. You will also have to deal with the levels of criticism and expectation that come with it from your surrounding community. Oftentimes, family or friends or whatnot, people that tend to be within your community, not everyone, of course, but
not all.
People will always, there will always be a level of judgment that oftentimes is based on the wrong information, which is
That part has not been fun.
right, but it adds a lot of extra
Unnecessary
energy that you
burden
don't
and
need.
stress
Yeah, so
and
as
energy input.
exactly, so then as we're sort of going and navigating this whole process and experience, you have to learn how to wash that off.
Oh,
Not let
believe
it,
me,
not
I've
let
had
it
my
build up, mi
moments
gente.
where I've had to mirror whatever energy was coming at us, and I got dramatic novela. Ay, ustedes no saben. Why? Because if I didn't do dramatic novela, mirroring back to some concerned humans that we love and treasure in our lives, they would just keep injecting their opinions and their suggestions and their expectation of you being a superwoman and being there as a woman in the family as much as you can. And when I tell you the amount of times that we have had to remind our family members, and particularly the women, that we do have other responsibilities, that we do have other jobs, cafecito break, that we have to be present for. And that doesn't necessarily compute. So we've been crashing also with old school traditions while keeping with some of those traditions because we do really believe in them. Except that one of the ways that we've been being vocal and we have been really, really, really grateful to the support is, hey, we need breaks. The reason we're able to bring you this message today is because a dear loved one recognizes that we need a little break. After this, I'm packing it up and I'm gonna go do my hospital shift. It's
And it makes
what
a
it
big
is.
difference to have those little breaks.
And I
to
really
know-
appreciate that. We
Yeah,
appreciate it so much.
It's like gives you the reflection time, the time to breathe. I will say that since you mentioned like the difference sometimes between like generations and times, right? Whereas perhaps maybe at another time siblings would have been driving themselves crazy and at the same time exploding with each other because it's overwhelming. And I just want to express gratitude to my sister and my other sibling, our brother, because
We're just great humans.
I have to say I feel like, and I've been in such prayer all these months and especially the last weeks and such gratitude because I'm constantly been in awe of, I think how well we've been navigating this pressure cooker with each other. We each have different scheduling and different responsibilities, and listen, it doesn't work out perfectly for
No,
either
because
one
we
of us.
all have different the way our
Yeah.
schedules are laid out. It's just
So
It's
something's
really just
always,
really invested. We're all really
Yeah.
invested in whatever we're doing in our lives.
something always will be affected somehow in everybody's life. Like no one, like I don't think anyone can say my life has been untouched. I get to perfectly do this, perfectly do that, and help. You know, like none of us have that. But I just feel like outside of us just trying to make the scheduling work in the best of our abilities
And feeling like almost adult orphans.
right, going through the process of being adult orphans, which is, you know,
Something we might have to discuss in another.
yeah, it brings up a lot of emotions and things to think about. And please, if you've been through this before, are going through it,
Comment below.
you know, and you know that feeling, or you'd love to hear that conversation. It's such a almost rite of passage experience for everyone. It's not something that people will necessarily not go through or that you could necessarily avoid. Most people will at some point.
Yeah.
But going back to my siblings and just being able to say, the other thing that makes me really proud is that on top of how we've been managing our schedules, is we're each experiencing different levels of emotion within our body, right? Being triggered out by different moments, different experiences, and even our particular dynamics with our mom. And for the most part, we're not vomiting it
Onto the other sibling.
onto the other because of whatever, you know, like I've been trying to be very conscious in my head, like to when I feel emotions rise up, to just let me feel them and figure out where they're coming from and try to find a way to then release them in a way where it's not going to other people. And you know what? Sometimes that means that I need to take a couple hours of silence. So I could do that.
You have to do what you can to preserve yourself, because the reason we're taking our time to share this is not because we love to give you details of our personal lives in this way. We don't. It's very uncomfortable. But we recognize that many of our community members are going through a similar situation right in this moment, where they have to care for someone who is not well right now. And this is part of lifing. This is part of doing life.
Adulting.
And when we live in a modern day era, we've told you some of our lessons as we were out there in the career world, that everything is sort of like the message is you can do it all. Be a superwoman, be a superman. You don't need, how many, little families move out and then they live somewhere by themselves, and then they have a baby and they don't really know anybody in their neighborhood, and then they're sort of just dealing with that. It's a big stress when you don't have extra hands,
The village
to support. And some of that has been attributed to the push of you can do all of this. And what people are recognizing, maybe when it's to the detriment of whatever the situation is that we do need the tribe, we do need the family, we do need the aunts, the titis, the siblings, whether there's a new baby, whether there's an ailing family member, whether it's just somebody has the flu and they're sick at home.
Yeah.
And maybe they just need someone to be like, hey, do you want me to bring you some chicken soup?
Right.
We're
Something
moving. I just
simple.
I have chills all over my body saying that, because there's probably someone in your life that could use that call from you.
100%.
100%. And
Like-
so I think something that's been beautiful is that, especially since COVID, there's been so many separations of families, friends, and a lot of it, to be honest, has not been because anybody had a fight. It's just life.
The way life has.
But this
moved it.
thing with our mom has been bringing not just our family and her friends together, but this amazing wave of, like, my mom is very active. Our mom is very active in the church. And can I tell you, her peeps
Are not messing around.
They are not messing around. They're very active, from deacons to pastors to priests,
Chorus,
to nuns, to people
the
in the
youth.
chorus, to the youth. They've been taking turns bringing mom some love, some faith, some goodness, some encouraging words.
Prayers.
And we have to say, we had a moment of a great big scare. And from one day to another, we saw such a big, encouraging awareness in our mom. And I can only attribute that, yes, to her support in the hospital. But I really believe that it was all of those prayers that she's been receiving. So thank you very much.
That it is humbling and empowering to literally witness that. You know, to
because this is energy, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about the vibe, and a lot of times we wake up and there's some people in the morning, they're like blah blah, cockamouth.
It's like what? It's like, again, the friendly reminder of a lot of things. Like when you're waking up, what is the first thoughts in your head? You know, what are your first steps? You know, are they really contributing to a nice intentional flow of your day or not? You know, even when you're in moments like this and you're feeling so overwhelmed, listen, you're gonna have emotions that maybe are not the best. You know, there's moments where I feel fear, and I have to not allow myself to live in that, but I can't also ignore it. So I have to then find a way to acknowledge it and release it, right? And shift it in a different way. So some of these things will happen very naturally, but we have to find a way to allow yourself to acknowledge it, figure out where it's coming from, because then otherwise it's just going to stay in your body, and then purge it out, right, in the best way that you have found works for you, so that you don't live in it. Because I think that's where we get in trouble, when something gets ignited in us and we just live in it, and we're not finding a way to release it or purge it or even talk about it with anyone. Like right now, like my sister was saying, my siblings and I, we've been really mostly passing ships. There hasn't been much time to
This
really
has been
catch
the most
up.
we've been talking to you, but this is
the most time we've had. So we haven't had each other's space to just be like, you know. So in moments like that, where maybe you have less access to your community or to opportunities to really just let things out, you have to find alternative ways that work for you, which is very individual. And there's no right or wrong way. There's different things that work for different people that helps you purge and release, you know, because otherwise, especially when you're in a pressure cooker, you have a constant array of emotions being like, you know, the moment you let go of one, you sort of feel like something else comes up and you're like, but
it's just too much.
You got to keep it moving. You know, you got to find a way to keep it flowing. And I feel like the other thing that I did want to kind of mention, that I feel a lot of people our generation or so, or more or less, are going through, you know, where
It does feel like that.
you know, when you're experiencing something with an elder, someone you love, that's sort of been like your representative or the matriarch, or, you know, and all of a sudden you're in this sort of middle age years, and you start seeing so many of your elders now either sort of retiring, or maybe their years, you know, you start to feel also that shift within you, you know, like, oh wow, it's not just going through this process with someone I love, and possibly even not having them in my life at some point, but it's also understanding that, like, your position and the way you have to sort of step up within your life and maybe your family, or just in your community, maybe shifting too. So I feel like I've heard so many people go through these stages, and especially at our age, and also connected to that sort of little fire being built up within you, understanding, wait a second, there's this responsibility that's being triggered within in a different way that I've not experienced at other times in my life.
Welcome to adulthood. Different stages all of the time. We're here to learn and experience. And those moments, those hard moments, are always spent better when you're with people, like-minded people, people who understand, people who get you. I'm very appreciative of my sister, of my brother. We're so different, and yet throughout all of this journey, there's been not one like disagreement. We're all on the same page. We're all very aware of one another's needs. We're vocal about what our needs are. Nobody pushes back. We just accept it and pivot. And I love that about our siblingship. I'm grateful to that. And you know, that's a testimony of us seeing our mom and our aunt just have this beautiful siblingship that, you know, they have till this day. And, you know, I'm grateful that my sister and my brother and I get to experience that siblingship. And, you know, that siblingship is what we've offered to you, to Botanical, to our Crystal Sage, to our Cafecito Breakers, is an extension of our sisterhood, being sisters, young sisters, big sisters, because some of our community members don't have siblings, or if they do, it's
Maybe
a
they're
whole
far.
other, maybe they're far in a whole other way. But
Right. But this is why life
family.
will bless you with the village. You know, I always believe that the universe, God,
Shout out to Troy.
will always give you balance. You know, like in some way or the other, there will always, I don't really like balance. It's more like harmony, right? There's a better harmony.
You're not social distancing
I just
with
feel
my
like
knee.
oftentimes when you may feel like, oh, maybe I don't have this one person really close to me, or this other person, maybe our dynamics are shifting. Somehow there's always someone or something that sort of comes in, not as a replacement, nobody replaces anybody, but it sort of harmonizes what you may be in need of in that moment. And if we keep ourselves open, we won't miss those opportunities, those relationship opportunities, those connections, because the truth is that we all need a village at every stage of life, you know, and sometimes the village is going to be very those people outside of maybe your blood family that will play very active roles. My sister and I have laughed.
Shout out to Roberto from El Bronx.
Ooh, ooh,
We appreciate you, hermano.
for all the love he gives us. You know,
No
sometimes
sleep till Brooklyn.
sometimes those people will have some of the more active, consistent roles during some of the most hardest times of your life than you would have ever imagined.
I know, isn't that
right?
wild?
And other times it will be the most simplest role, but regardless, the fact that you have your village, your tribe, your community, it's such a blessing upon blessing. So
Thank you for all of you for your support. We're gonna try to do these videos as much as we can, because we have so many things to communicate with you guys. We're in crazy election season. There's a lot of cafecito tea that we want to share with you.
I know. There's a lot to catch up on.
There's a lot to catch up on.
And this is also exciting time for my sister and I when it comes to, because we love these topics. We love to dive into them.
This would be like our peak season for Cafecito Break, specifically because we've been covering this so specifically. We love to talk about politics and the culture, and connect with us. Please subscribe to Crystal Sage Wisdom. Please subscribe to our Substacks. Please subscribe to Cafecito Break. We are on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter. Facebook is a hit and miss, but we're there too. You can find us wherever.
Find
Give us
any of
some
it.
loves. Give us some subscribes. Like, share, subscribe.
Y por favor, share.
Comment.
Share with people, because let me tell you, I know we're like a broken record, pero it's always good to remind folks, when you do that, it energizes the algorithm within and under our different pages, and it is incredibly helpful, and it is a free way for any of you who want to support us to be able to support us. So,
and last thing I'll say is that because it is election season, we know that this means that the social media algorithms are going to be tightening up their censorship.
Worse.
And let me tell you how YouTube makes it so easy for us to receive contributions or to share links with you, because even though we haven't done anything wrong on Cafecito Breaks YouTube in almost a year, they still found a way to penalize us. And the other day, YouTube sent us a nice little message saying that even though you've had this channel, I'm paraphrasing, they didn't say this first part, I believe since 2017, now all of a sudden the links have been disabled because we have to prove our worth to,
2017.
yeah, we have to create a new relationship with them. Can you imagine having to continuously prove yourself? You know, that's not a good relationship, is it? So we're trying to build a relationship with you guys. If you really appreciate us, please support us in whichever way you can. Using the mouthpieces is the best way.
We appreciate it so much, and thank you again for taking some time to spend it with us. This is Alex and Rob from Crystal Sage Wisdom and Cafecito Break, and we are over and out.
Parranda! Thank you.
Until next time.
Bye, community members.